So, bombshell. So this is from the American Heart Association, by American Heart Association News, and there's been a big study on myocarditis and vaccines, and their headline is COVID-19 infection poses higher risk for myocarditis than vaccines. Oh, so the vaccines are 100% safe? You're better off getting that, and then...
How much higher? What are the risks?
So that is true if you take everyone into account, like 100-year-old people and 0-year-old people. If you put them all in one big group, this is true.
Oh, so it's not a useful measure is what you're saying.
Not really that. You want to know what comes on paragraph 12 of this article? Paragraph 12. You ready? The overall risk of myocarditis, inflammation of the heart muscle, is substantially higher immediately after being infected with COVID-19 than it is in the weeks following a new large. That was paragraph 1. Paragraph 12. Here's paragraph 12. Among men under 40, there was an estimated 4 extra cases of myocarditis associated with the first dose of Pfizer vaccine and 14 extra cases of myocarditis with the first dose of Moderna for every 1 million men vaccinated. So there's the baseline. How many people would have get myocarditis out of 1 million? And then how many more got it after the vaccine? 14 out of 1 million more got it with the Moderna, and 4 out of the Pfizer. That's from the first dose. That risk rose with the second dose for all 3 vaccines studied and was the highest for Moderna, which had an additional 97 cases per million after the second dose. For unvaccinated men under 40 with COVID-19, there were 16 additional myocarditis cases per million. So here it is. Here's the graph that's going to blow your mind. First dose of Pfizer, second dose of Pfizer. That's the myocarditis. It's a little under 20, right? So there's first dose Moderna, second dose Moderna.
Whoa.
Bam. And here are people who got COVID who weren't vaccinated. COVID without any vax. So that's how much myocarditis they got. That's how much they got from the vax. Now, I'm not a statistician. So I'm sure there are some people who know stats who watch this show. So maybe you can let me know in the super chat. Shouldn't you add these two together? Shouldn't you add the myocarditis after the first dose and after the second dose together? And then shouldn't you add this and this together?
Since you're supposed to get 2 doses.
To compare it against this.
Right. Yes.
So compare it against people who got COVID and never were vaxxed, shouldn't you add these 2 together and then add these 2 together? So it would be over 90.
Yeah, you should, right?
Yes. And so here we featured this doctor. He's a YouTube doctor. He's a real doctor. He just got his professorship somewhere. I forget where, but he says it's now undeniable. Vaccine can cause myocarditis in men under 40. That should be the headline. What a weird headline. To me, this is the story. Of course, this is the story.
Well, they don't want to die on that hill.
I have said repeatedly, Moderna should be banned for men under 40. FDA failed Americans, and this analysis is more complicated. Everyone gets breakthrough eventually.
Oh, I thought they'd gotten it together after the OxyContin thing.
Yeah.
Wasn't that the guy who was sad he had to throw out 30 million doses of his...
Yeah, the head of the Moderna.
Balloon heart juice.
So... Well, listen to a little bit of what he has to say. This is that doctor.
The authors are still binning data in big bins. I see there's some news coverage of this that shows this study by Patone and colleagues is reassuring that it shows that, across the whole population, the risk of COVID-19, myocarditis, and the risk of vaccine myocarditis, blah, blah, blah. Well,
so what he's saying is the headline of that article I just showed you goes, there are people in the industry that are saying, well, overall, it's looking, and he's going to tell you why it's wrong to look at it like that.
It's the same problem as when they were talking about like the belt, like why you wouldn't average an entire race's IQ together, because that's not a useful thing to say,
right.
Like somebody's better. Yeah, right.
So he's going to explain it to you.
Stop right there. We're not talking about across the whole population. You see, as a doctor, I'm able to tell the difference between a 22-year-old man and an 87-year-old woman. I'm able to do that. I'm able to tell that difference. And as long as I'm able to tell the difference between a 22-year-old man and an 87-year-old woman, I shouldn't be looking at myocarditis that lump together 22-year-old men and 87-year-old women. We want to know
Women are in it?
the risk of myocarditis from every...
The study.
So when they total, they
study
put
of
men
40
and
million,
women all the,
40
oh,
million
wow.
people. And it wasn't until you got to the 12th paragraph that they told you what the risk was for men under 40. So women over 40, men over 40, all that stuff. They don't fall into this category. But men under 40, and he's going to, here you go.
Single dose of vaccine, and from all the possible ways you get breakthrough, I'm going to talk about that more, for a 22-year-old man and an 87-year-old woman. I have no doubt in my mind that the calculus for an 87-year-old woman is going to favor many, many doses of vaccine because the risk of myocarditis for her is very, very low, and the risk of bad outcomes from COVID-19 is very, very high. But there's a lot of questions around young men and how many doses is optimal. Let's talk about that. You can get 0 doses, 1 doses, 2 doses, 3 doses, at least in this country so far. Maybe in a few weeks, they're going to say 4 doses. You can get that many doses as a 22-year-old man. No matter how many doses you get, you will inevitably have a COVID-19 breakthrough. You can get 1 dose and have a breakthrough. You can get a 2nd dose and have a breakthrough. You can get a 3rd dose and have a breakthrough. And I'm sure that even this 4th dose, we have no clinical trial data. God forbid they have any human data.
I met somebody
but
who did that.
you could probably get a 4th dose and still get a breakthrough. We have yet to know. We have never seen these bivalent vaccines yet. So what you need to do when you think about the best path, and really, we're already kind of a year late, but imagine hypothetically we're back in time. You have to ask yourself, which has the lowest cumulative risks and the greatest cumulative benefits? Is it 0 doses in meeting the virus? And I think it's highly unlikely that to be the case, particularly for even 35-year-old, 40-year-old men. It's highly unlikely that that's the best path. 1 dose and then meeting the virus, you have a huge reduction in virus-induced myocarditis, and you have the minimal but real excess myocarditis from the vaccine. And if that first dose goes in, should it be a Pfizer and Moderna? You get 2 doses, Pfizer, and then breakthrough, or Moderna, and then breakthrough. What's that cumulative path of myocarditis? And I think you see here clearly from this study that a boy who is particularly under the age of 40, this proves if they get the 2 doses and then the breakthrough, that myocarditis risk is going to be super, super high. And then you can imagine 3 doses and then breakthrough. And you can imagine a whole set of varied scenarios for people who had the...
So he's saying, do we really want, because he's going to say everyone's going to get a break. It looks like you're going to get a breakthrough infection, right? So even if you get vaccinated, you're going to contract COVID, according to Fauci, according to this guy, that you're going to have a breakthrough infection, most likely. And he's saying we should figure out what's going to lessen your risk of myocarditis and better health outcomes. Is it 1 dose of Pfizer? Is it 2 doses of Pfizer? Is it 1 dose of Moderna and then a Pfizer? So what is it? Is it better? Because this is what he's saying. And then he says this at the end.
We can think about it that way. And this is, requires a lot more clinical trial data. It requires a lot more granular data. But I've never seen the commitment from the US CDC and the FDA to do that. And we wrote the...
So he's saying we need more data.
You like 8 more mice to test this
Yes,
on. Yeah.
we need more data. And he's saying the CDC is continuously through this hasn't shown an interest in doing that. But we're not supposed to be able to criticize the CDC at YouTube. That we can't contradict what they say and all that stuff. Those are all we'll get in trouble. This guy's saying that they don't have any interest in doing the research that's necessary. I wonder why. Could it be that Big Pharma doesn't want them to do that? And of course, that agency, which is supposed to be regulating Big Pharma and stuff, that they're captured, like the FDA, is the corporate capture of our regulatory agencies.
About a year ago, we wrote this back in 2021, that the one-size-fits-all approach for vaccine policy runs the risk that there's real safety signals you're ignoring. And I think they have done that repeatedly.
He just said that the CDC has ignored repeatedly warning safety signals. The CDC seems like they're the ones who are nefarious once again, and the liars. And that we need to keep an eye on, because they're the government. And we need to keep our eye on the government. And we need to be able to be critical of government, even no matter what the corporate behemoth like Google, which owns YouTube, wants us. They don't want us to criticize the CDC. They don't want us criticizing Big Pharma. It causes headaches for their advertising. I get it. And that's why almost nobody else is doing it. None of my friends in this space have any coherent criticism of the COVID narrative. None of them. Not, this is it. This show and the Gray Zone. This is it. Do you know of any YouTubers, Kurt?
I guess Russell, that brand. That's it.
Oh, I got you. Yeah, that's right. He's across the pond though. Come on. I'm talking about the people in my circle. Anyway, and there you go. Okay. It's undeniable. Can't deny it now. And those people wanted to mandate that for men under 40. Undeniable that they have a greater risk of myocarditis.
I guess Kim Iverson. That's why she left the Hill.
Here's the risk versus that. That's the risk versus that. And if you were for a mandate and now you know this information, you should start apologizing to everybody in your life. I know you won't do that, but that's what you should do.
Should apologize when you got it anyway after you said the mandate was to stop it cold. Madhouse style.
Yeah. Hey, we're coming to Tulsa, Oklahoma City, Detroit, Los Angeles, Spokane, Tacoma, Denver. Go to jimmydorecomedy.com for a link for all our tickets for all our live shows. See you there.